What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a film that is a little bit older now, but has been circulating around TikTok specifically in a couple of different places. And this is like a mockumentary found footage type of film that is in the horror genre that I've seen so many people talk about recently, saying it's a hidden gem and comparing it to films like Lake Mungo, which is a movie I really enjoyed. It's a very different type of found footage mockumentary film that is much more quiet and slow paced, and a lot of the horror is through the subtlety of the movie and through little hints that are given to you, which create a really ominous feeling. And it's a really unique type of movie, and there haven't been a lot of other found footage mockumentary films that have made me feel that way. So to hear any type of movie in comparison to Lake Mungo, I'm ready to jump on board right away. And this is a part of a series called Banned from Broadcast, which I guess there's like 10 or 11 parts that were aired on TV, but this is the movie version. And each and every one of those other 10 things, you don't have to have watched them to watch this. They're all separate stories, but this is the full length feature film that they did, and I'm really excited to talk about it with you today. Banned from Broadcast, the movie Saiko, the Large Family, is directed by Toshikazu Nage. Canadian filmmaker Veronica Addison, who makes documentaries on family issues around the world, closely follows a very large family in Japan. Although they appear cheerful on the surface, the family has many problems. So I was really excited to watch this, especially with a lot of the things being said about it on the internet and a lot of the conversation surrounding it, especially in relation to Lake Mungo. And I think this movie has a little bit too much hype going for it, unfortunately. I don't think it lives up to Lake Mungo, and I certainly don't think that it's as ominous and foreboding as a lot of people have described it. I'm all for subtlety in horror movies, and I like films that make you work and movies that aren't, throwing jump scares at you every 5 minutes. But this movie is almost too subtle to the point where I feel like the horror gets lost. I mean, there sure are horrific circumstances surrounding this movie, but it feels way more like a familial drama with horrific elements ladled in than a horror movie. And I think it's being talked about in a very different way than what is actually being presented here. And I'm interested to talk about it with you today. So, Veronica Addison is a filmmaker making a documentary about this Saiko family. And she goes and spends time with the family, and they're an incredibly large family. They have a number of kids, and the original father of the family disappeared sometime around 9 years ago. And the mother is with a new man, and they're trying to get remarried, and they're in the process of getting remarried. And so we spend a lot of the early parts of the documentary being introduced to all of the different kids. Their oldest child, he never comes out of his room. The oldest daughter has left the house to go to college and hasn't been in contact with the family for a very long time. And we see the power dynamics of the family and kind of how they operate day to day. And we're told about the economic conditions in this area and how difficult it is for a family of this size to survive, and kind of how everyone has to contribute. And throughout the film, we learn a little bit more about the husband's disappearance and things surrounding the family, and that there may be some type of supernatural element going on in the household that is causing difficulty for this specific family. So as I said, I didn't enjoy this as much as a lot of other people did. I really respect what it's going for, and I can see where the idea is, but I think the execution is relatively flawed. I will say, for starters, like, if you're going into this thinking that this is going to be any kind of straightforward horror film, it's not. Very similar to Lake Mungo, a lot of the horror is through subtle imagery and things like being showed to you in a very minimal way. You kind of have to work for it, with aside from some dialogue sequences. And I will say the performances of the family in this are solid. They feel like a real family. Their interactions together and the conversations that they have, they feel like real people. And I can always appreciate that when you do the mockumentary style, having that feel very realistic. But one of my biggest issues with this movie is the woman conducting the documentary is just miserable to watch. Her dialogue delivery is horrible. I've seen a lot of people talk about the intentionality of making it feel like it's a low budget broadcast and that this person doesn't have a whole lot of experience. But regardless of that, it's like, okay, if I turned on the TV and this was a real documentary, I probably wouldn't watch it. And so like it's interesting because like you can go the route to make it feel that way, but I feel like getting someone a lot more compelling or that does a better job speaking to the camera would make it a lot easier to watch. I really like the family dynamics here, especially this stepfather who's trying to, you know, be the leader in this family, and he really cares about these kids and he wants to take care of these kids, and he's doing everything in his power to win them over. And I really like that element of the film. And it's conveyed very strongly, especially early on, the lengths that he will go to in order to protect and take care of his family. And I liked that element of the movie. But the problem is the horror elements, or like people saying that this feels really ominous or horrifying. That entire feeling doesn't exist through the entire runtime of the movie outside of a couple of scattered sequences. There's some moments in like the hour to hour and 15-minute mark where you have these kids doing interviews and you see someone out of the corner of your eye watching them while they're getting these interviews conducted, and those sequences are creepy, but like you can kind of get an implication early on as to where it's going. The whole thing around this film is it's a mystery and you never 100% explicitly told what's going on, but I don't think you have to. It's kind of easy to see where it's going through the way characters talk to each other, through the way they deliver dialogue. And the whole thing about the father being missing, like it's interesting at the start, but then we spend so much time not talking about it, and it's so much more the stepfather trying to track down the oldest daughter and getting into fights with this young girl, which the shocking sequences in this film of like the abuse that's occurring from the younger kids onto the adults, I found it to be kind of funny the first time it happened. It wasn't really any shock. It was just kind of like, wow, this is happening out of nowhere. And the reaction of the person doing the documentary, it's like not taken seriously enough for it to resonate in a very serious way. And it really just kind of took me out of it. And then at the end, I'm just kind of searching for what ominous feelings people are getting, because sure, it's tragic. I mean, it's upsetting if you look at it as a real family, but the problem is like, if you're gonna call this thing a horror movie, have some kind of horror in it. Having a person stand in the corner, out of the corner of your eye, while kids are talking to a camera is not enough for me to be creeped out. The thing that makes Lake Mungo so horrifying is, despite the subtlety of the film, there's a looming threat the entire movie, and there's this mystery surrounding it, and you're on the edge of your seat the entire time. This thing just feels like a tonal mess. And honestly, I had a hard time kind of figuring out what it was going for, and it left me ultimately disappointed. I was really excited to watch this thing. I really thought that it was going to be something truly unique and special, but it left me disappointed overall. So have you seen Banned from Broadcast, the movie? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was very disappointing. I think with the level of hype surrounding it and the way people are talking about it online, I would just skip over this. There are a ton of movies in this genre that are way better. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.